Hey guys, and welcome to part 2 of your Unit 5 notes on cognitive psychology. In this section, we're going to still look at some of the ways we problem solve and pull out information, but also how it affects our intelligence and language. So we're going to first start by looking at what exactly intelligence is. In different cultures, it could be different things. But for the United States, and the definition you guys should know, is that it's the ability to do well on cognitive tasks, to solve problems, and to learn from experiences. How you measure one's intelligence is through validity, reliability, and standardization. And you guys see the last one all the time with standardized testing for ACTs, SATs, AP tests, all of that. Validity doesn't measure what the purpose behind the intended test is. Is it reliable? If you took it 3 times, are you going to get a similar score without studying? And then standardization is there uniformity around everyone who's taking it and scoring in the same way? Alfred Binet, he came up with the mental age, which he believed that it should be kind of consistent. If your mental age is higher than your actual chronological age, then you were more intelligent than others. If your chronological age surpasses your mental age, then you were less intelligent than average. And if they were equal, then you were average. So your IQ was right around 100. Stern came up with the intelligence quotient, which I would like you to look up what it is and circle and highlight it. You don't need to memorize it. It should be fairly simple enough. With intelligence, though, we do see a normal curve. Most of the world falls in between one standard deviation from the mean. And then the further we get out, the less amount of people are affected. Again, there are influences on intelligence as well as testing. It is very difficult to create a test that doesn't have any bias at all. Just thinking about a question, when is Christmas? If you don't celebrate Christmas, you probably don't care. If you're not Irish, you probably don't care when St. Patrick's Day is. However, with intelligence, the way you learn and the way you process information does get passed down from generation to generation. Your intelligence level should increase with age. We do know that with environmental influences, it can alter our intelligence levels. We have seen with the Flynn effect that if you study one group of people in 1 year, their average intelligence scores were around 100 IQ level, and then 20, 30, or 40 years later, the average IQ jumped 20 points, which you guys see here. Between 1932 and 1997, the same people, or not the same people, the same place of people, their intelligence scores jumped significantly. In the earlier days of having intelligence testing and all of that, the word intellectual disability was known as mental retardation. However, we do not use that word anymore. The proper term is intellectual disability or intellectually disabled. And that's typically when a person has an IQ below 70. However, when we have students or people that have an IQ below 70, we try to work on more adaptive behavior, so things that will benefit them better in society than focusing on like 3 years of a social studies class, 4 years of a science. So conceptual skills like money and numbers, time, social skills, being able to communicate with one another, follow rules, and practical skills, hygiene, how to get transportation, using a telephone, things that they need. Then we have our theories of multiple intelligence, and we're going to really focus on two, Sternberg and then Gardner's. Sternberg's theory were that there were 3 different types of intelligence: analytical, creative, and practical, versus Gardner's, who said we had originally 8, now they added the existential, which is kind of created like there's an outside intelligence we don't really know. This is kind of where people came up with our learning styles, where someone said, oh, I'm a visual learner. I'm a hands-on learner. I learn best through hearing. If anyone ever tells you to do a learning style quiz or tells you that you're this kind of learning style, do not listen to them. Learning styles are not a thing. You learn with at least 2 to 3 of them all at once. You might prefer a certain method, but it takes multiple methods to get information into your brain. Which here kind of talks more. You can also practice learning in specific ways to improve how you actually take in information. You always are improving your learning. And then we have language. So language can be spoken, it can be written, and it can even be signed or even symbols. You can create indefinite numbers of sentences and phrases and a whole lot more. This slide is really important, the structure of language. When we look at our phonemes or phonology, we're looking at our sounds. This is where you see from like 0 to 6 months, like especially with babies, you see like ba, ba, ba. They're just making basic examples. Morphology talks about how words are formed. So you'll have how if someone has the word help, how it's used in one way, but then if you're someone who is helpful, you're a helper, more words. Syntax is rules for combining words and phrases. It's part of grammar. Semantics are meaning of words. So a good example is woman versus girl, man versus boy. When you think of man or woman, you think of someone who's slightly older. When you think of girl or boy, you think of younger. And pragmatics is the use of language. Language cognition is really weird to think about. If we didn't have language, it'd be really hard to communicate. And this is why it's grown so much. But Benjamin Ward, and I want you guys to star, highlight, circle, whatever, created the term linguistic determinism. And that's where language determines thought. And nowadays we have a little bit more information where it's not entirely accurate. Because now we have the internet, other things that kind of help give us thought. And everything grows. However, language influences cognition, how we fully process things, how we get information down. So it just might not be the thought in your head, but how you're problem solving, how you're finding out more information. Williams syndrome is a super unique syndrome. It happens to occur in every 20,000 births. It's a genetic disorder. It typically affects many parts of the body, but most of the time it's facial features, with a broad forehead, a shorter nose, longer looking face. These people who have this syndrome are very, very extraordinary with their verbal and social and musical abilities, but have a lower IQ level and have difficulty with like fine and gross motor skills, so like picking things up with your pointer finger and thumb finger, and then even numbers. Biological influences, we look at different milestones. Obviously, when you're younger, like a year old and younger, you're not expecting someone to be able to give a full-on speech. We are looking at Broca's and Wernicke's area around this time, but it is pretty cool to know that the hippocampus is fully developed at 9 months of age. And this is where we start to actually get meanings to words. So this is where people start to see their children say mama and actually mean it, or dada and actually mean it. They're talking to that person. Environmental influences, different behaviors, you're learning new skills. How you learn to be afraid of spiders is because you watch your parents behave and be afraid of spiders. Language exposure. We're going to look at Jeannie the Wild Child, but if you're not exposed to it, you don't get to practice it. Another interesting thing is those people who are middle class citizens tend to speak over 2,000 words an hour, whereas those who are on welfare, it's been shown that only speak typically 600 words an hour. So children who are in those different environments, by age 4, hear 13 million fewer words. So that can impact language significantly. This slide was shown to me when I was in college, and I thought it was funny how not to suck as a parent. Talk to your kids, whether it's a simple conversation or anything. Talk to your babies. I always ask Hudson how his day is at daycare in the car, and he'll just babble at me. His new thing is going duck, and he will have a full-on conversation. But let your children, let your peers, let people around you hear you talk. Like those of you guys that work at daycare, let them hear it. And then here's different milestones.